Are you charged with or just interested in the criminal charge of obstructing a law enforcement officer in Seattle or anywhere in Washington state? Well, if so, you've come to the right place. This is the video for you. My name is Lance Fryrear, and I'm a defense attorney with a law firm in Lynnwood, Washington. We've been defending people charged with crimes, including obstruction, for more than 20 years. And so I thought I'd make this video to provide information about three things. Number one, what is obstruction? How is it defined? What are the penalties? How does it work? Number two, what are the most common situations that we see an officer charge someone with obstruction? And number three, and most importantly, so stay to the end for this, what are some defenses? How can we get you or your loved one the best possible result in an obstruction case? So again, I'm putting out these videos to help people. So if you find this useful, please like, please subscribe, please watch to the end. And now I'm going to get right into the meat of this issue. So one, what is obstruction? Well, obstruction is a crime. It's a gross misdemeanor crime, which means the maximum penalty is $5,000 fine and 1 year in jail. And basically it's defined as willfully hindering, obstructing, or delaying a police officer in the execution of their official duties. So it has to be on purpose, willfully. We have to hinder or delay them in exercising their official duties. And, it has to be, pretty big deal. An officer will often warn someone before they charge with obstruction. It's basically whatever an officer says it is. If they can make a good faith claim that the actions of the defendant hindered or delayed their investigation, their duties, then they might be able to charge someone with obstruction. So number two, what are the most common situations we see obstruction charge? Well, the most common by far is a traffic stop. Oftentimes in a traffic stop, we have people that have been drinking or people that are upset that law enforcement is involved, and it's oftentimes a passenger. So they're investigating the driver for DUI, they're investigating the driver for some other type of crime, and the passenger starts to yell at the officer or yell at the suspect. You don't have to do it. Don't listen to him. And then oftentimes that upsets the police, and the police sort of get into a match with the suspect who is interfering in the police officer's mind. They say, "Step back, get away," and eventually the officer may decide to charge that person with obstruction. So the most common situation is in a motor vehicle where we see obstruction. We can also see obstruction or making a false statement to a public servant. We have another video on that. We can also see obstruction when an officer is investigating the identity of someone is another chance. They go to somebody's house looking for a particular person, and the person at the door misidentifies the person the officer is looking for. Or it could be at a bowling alley. I've seen that case where the officer's looking for someone who's violated an order. They show up, and the other people lead the officer in a wild goose chase. It's harder to prove it there, but again, if the willful actions of a person hinders or delays an officer trying to execute their duties, that is obstruction. So again, a close cousin to obstruction is making a false statement to a public servant. And we also have a video on that. So that's basically giving a false name about yourself, lying about something that the officer would rely on in executing their duty. So obstruction is about hindering them, delaying them, and lying to an officer is a little bit more like making a false statement. So they're close cousins. And so contact an attorney if you find yourself in this situation. So number three, and thank you for staying to the end, the most important to a lot of people would be, how do we deal with this type of charge? Well, again, obstruction is a non-felony. And so if you're facing this charge, there's many ways we can defend. The first and most important way is just by looking at the statutes. Did your actions really hinder and delay the officer, or were you just using free speech? Were you just advising your friend what to do? Were you just letting the officer know we're watching you on video because of all the things that can go wrong nowadays with officer and suspect interactions? And so did you really hinder and delay them, or were they able to do their duties? Did they still arrest the original suspect? Did they still investigate it? is this just being ticky-tacky, and therefore you really shouldn't be held criminally liable? Another possible defense that we use is basically your lack of any prior history, the reason why you were upset. Maybe you were drinking, maybe you weren't acting like your normal self, maybe you have a reason to act like you did. While that not be a statutory defense by the elements of the crime, it could be something we want to share with the prosecutor to try to lessen the penalties. And I think the third way that we defend these cases is basically to show that what you were doing, you didn't realize was hindering or obstructing the officer, again, because it has to be willfully. So the first approach is say it didn't actually hinder or delay. Another approach is, hey, you didn't do it on purpose. You were more looking out for yourself. You didn't know that what you were doing was actually interfering with the officer because the officer didn't give you a warning. And so that's one of the third ways we can defend these. So I hope you find this helpful. If you have, please like, please subscribe. And if you actually find yourself in the situation, you could give us a call. Again, my name's Lance Fryrear. My firm has been defending people charged with this type of crime for more than 20 years. If you're in the situation or a loved one is, give us a call. We'll talk to you. We'll talk about what happened. We'll identify a way forward. We'll do whatever we can to help. Again, we'll be there for you. Thank you.